The Beat of MK, this is MKFM. I'm delighted to say that we've been joined by Brian White. The name might be familiar to you. He was our mayor of Milton Keynes between 2013 and 2014. Retired in February. Hello, Brian.
Good afternoon.
We're going to be talking in quite some detail about some recent news that you've shared with the community here in Milton Keynes. I wanted to start off by saying is that you was quite keen to do this interview.
Absolutely.
Not because you want people to feel sorry for you, but you want to raise awareness of the organisations that are looking after you. You want to discuss about going to the doctors early.
Yep, absolutely.
And a number of other things. So,
well, if somebody felt sorry for me, it would be the first time in my life, apart from my parents. But I've been around Milton Keynes now 40 years. I've been involved in lots of different things, from being MP to being mayor to being on the council to being a trustee of various organisations like National Energy Foundation or the MK Museum, lots of different organisations. And so I know a lot of people around Milton Keynes. And it was one of those situations when they diagnosed the cancer, I thought, well, what do? Do I just go hide away in a hole? Or do I actually start talking about my experiences? And if I can get one person, hopefully a lot more, but if I can get just one person to go to the doctor earlier than I did, then hopefully that will be worth it. Because I'd been having pains. I'd always suffered cramps in my ankles and my toes and things like that. And you stand up, you relax, it goes away. But this time last year, I started getting internal cramps in my organs. And it was one every few weeks, and then it got worse and it got worse. So by the time it came around to Christmas, I was thinking, well, there's something wrong. And as people who've listened to me on this radio show before know, I tend to do lots of different things.
Very busy.
Slightly. And it was getting to the stage where I was struggling to do one. And that sort of threw up all sorts of bells and alarms. And so I went to the doctor, and at Christmas I was 15 stone. And I've lost 2 stone, 2 pounds since then. And they went and they did various tests and couldn't find anything, and carried on, did more tests. Eventually sent me for an ultrasound. And so my wife and I went down, we did the ultrasound, and I'm typical male. I'm squeamish. I can't stand the sight of needles. I don't want to see a needle. I don't want to see anything about my body. I don't want to see blood. Don't want to see anything like that. So I was cowering in the corner, looking away. And Lena was looking at the ultrasound, looking at the internal of my body. She knows my body better than I do. But they found some masses on my kidneys, which they then investigated further. And they then sent me to have an endoscopy and a colonoscopy, which is basically stick something down you and stick something up you. In the words of Dad's Army there, I don't like it up me. But they stuck it down, and what they found was I had a tumour in my gullet. Now that happens to people in Milton Keynes all the time. And they were really good, because from the point where the blood tests indicated I had to go, that they were very quick. And then I said they had the ultrasound. Next day they had a CT scan. And the radiographer at Milton Keynes Hospital was brilliant, because knowing my politics, he happened to just accidentally drop an SNP pen just to wind me up. I thought it was brilliant. And but that CT scan showed that the cancer had spread from the tumour they'd found in my gullet into the liver and into my bones. So the next day, they and basically the tumour in my gullet meant if you had if your normal gullet is 1 centimetre wide, you get food down. Mine was 1/10 of a centimetre.
Right.
So I couldn't get solid food down, so I was throwing up, and I was able to get liquids down me, and I was able to get sort of mushy food down me, but so I could have a a Weetabix in the morning, but not bread. And so they put a stent in, which is basically a steel ring, which opened up my gullet, which meant I can now put semi-solid stuff down me.
So you're building yourselves back up again.
Yeah.
I know that we've spoke over the last few days about the transition that you're making from mush food
to solid food.
To almost getting on solids.
Yeah. So, but the next appointment, which was on the Wednesday, that was on the Thursday night. They put the stent in. On the Wednesday, I was in front of the consultant, and basically he said, "We can't operate on the tumour. It's inoperable because of the spread." And I'm very much a practical person. I said, "Well, it is what it is. We've just got to deal with managing it." Now that management of that cancer can be from 1 day to 20 years. And it comes down to individual circumstances, whether people are fighting it, whether people have got a positive attitude. There's support staff at Milton Keynes Hospital who are brilliant. And so that's what we're in the situation of doing. Now, how we manage that, whether it's chemotherapy or radiotherapy, which I prefer, or some of the new treatments, we're in the process of evaluating at the moment. So, and I've got an appointment next week to determine which one of those I move on to. But in the meantime, they've been giving me some morphine treatment at night, oral morphine, to counter any pain that I get, so I can sleep during the night, which is something I wasn't doing very well since Christmas. And then steroids in the morning, which gets me going and gets me moving and things like that. And it's been brilliant treatment. If you compare me where I was at Christmas, I'm still down in the valley. If you compare me where I was when they told me that the tumour was there, I'm halfway up the mountain.
Well, we met on Saturday, and even over the last few days, you seem to be brighter today. You do seem to be more positive. So going back to fighting this and the battle that you talk about, you do seem quite positive.
You've got to be. And if you're not positive, the best way to fight cancer is to have a positive attitude. Yes, it's devastating news. Yes, it has an impact on your family. And in my case, it's incurable. That doesn't mean I'm going to die tomorrow. It means that I've got to manage my life in a totally different way. I've got to adjust to not being the way I was a few months ago. It means I can't do the kind of things I would love to do, to still be on the council, still doing the representative work and all the rest of the things I've been doing for 40 years. I've got to adjust to not a much more sedate life, but a different life where I manage the cancer as the number one priority and then move on to doing other things.
And what type of outlook have the doctors given you?
Really positive, and it's one of those ones that they don't know how long it will last. But there's one thing that's for sure. Not you, not me, not anybody in Milton Keynes is going to get out of this world alive. So it's only a question of when.
Yeah.
So let's enjoy every day. Let's make sure that I get the most out of each day that I can. And let's elongate it. And the longer I have that attitude, the longer other people who've got cancer have got that attitude, that we can not beat it, but we can manage it. And we can have a quality of life that that is much better than when you hear those words. And that's what I intend to do. I'm going to have a good quality of life. I'm going to enjoy the next 20 years. I'm going to have I've got campaigns to fight, whether it's stay in the EU in a couple of weeks or next week, whenever it is, or other things about improving Milton Keynes. I can still get involved in those and intend to. But I just can't be leading them the way I used to. So I've just got to adjust.
This is a bit of an awkward question, but what was it like when they told you that you had cancer? What was it like when you first realised that, this wasn't something that could be cured with some medication?
Well, I knew from once the ultrasound came through, I knew I had cancer. My hope was that it was benign and they could do an operation, and then it would be just a question of recovery. And that was my hope. A week later, I didn't have that hope. So, as I say, it's just a question of, well, I can't worry about the fact I've got cancer. It is as it is. All I can do is make sure that I enjoy every single day. I do the things the doctors want, and it's a choice. And as I say, they don't know whether they're going to give me chemotherapy or radiotherapy or one of the other new treatments. But cancer research are doing so much work at the moment that improve quality of life, find new drugs. You've got the support agencies like Macmillan Nurse and Willand Hospital, which we'll come on to in a second, who give you that support. And there is so much... money couldn't have bought me the treatment I've had on the NHS in the last month.
Now, you hear so much about the NHS. You hear so much about the hospitals here in Milton Keynes. And from what you've told me on Saturday, not just because you're Brian White, our former mayor or MP or involvement with the council, just as a person that's walked into that hospital, you've had first-class care.
I made a decision that I wouldn't hide it. I didn't see the point. I said I did it for one reason, which is that if somebody else has those kind of internal pains or whatever, or doubts, go to your doctor. And if one more person goes to the doctor early, that's benefit. So I did. It was a no-brainer, really. It's just, well, I've got it. Let's see if I can help people. And through my own experiences. And so people see what not to do, which is like I did, run away from it and should have gone earlier. Or embrace it and just fix it earlier.
I think there's definitely a thing about blokes, kind of ignoring it, not wanting to go to the doctors. But in my experience, I've always wanted to go to the doctor. But what I've found since living in Milton Keynes, it's very difficult to actually go to the doctor because of getting an appointment.
I didn't have that problem. The moment they did the ultrasound, the following day, the ultrasound results were in. Got to my GP at Oak Ridge, Dr. Hard, who was brilliant. At 10 o'clock, he got the results. 11 o'clock, he got his receptionist to phone me to set up an appointment. At 12 o'clock, I was in his office discussing the options. A week later, I'd had all those tests and discovered it. So I can't fault, and I can only praise the system working in the way it's supposed to work. And that happens, as a journalist, and that bad news is always reported ahead of good news. But there's so much good news in Milton Keynes Hospital that needs to be shown out there that says it is a good hospital, it does respond. Ignore the scare stories, ignore the problems, because they're a minority. Yes, they do happen, and they're terrible for the individuals involved. But the vast majority of people are getting really good treatment.
And they've got an excellent walk-in service as well, haven't they? Not A&E.
Yeah.
But if you can't see your doctor, then they've got the emergency care. So if something has been on your mind for a while and it suddenly gets worse, at least you could walk in there.
Which I think I opened, actually.
Yeah.
And it's a really good... if you can't get to your GP, go to the walk-in centre. There are... Or phone the...
111.
111 number, yeah. There are plenty of options. The thing that I did wrong was to ignore it. Don't ignore it. The earlier the doctors see it, the better the chances are of fixing it.
And did they say anything to you as regards as the period of time that you had left it? Did they say that if you would have come at this certain... No.
No, they haven't said anything about that. But again,
I
could go out, I could leave this studio, walk out, and get hit by the number 5 bus.
Yeah.
We don't know how much longer we've got left. All we can do is enjoy the days that are allocated to us and make sure that we get a good quality of life. And that means using the support agencies and allowing them to tell you what the right options are. And as I say, we have such good support agencies. And one of the problems is, of course, that Milton Keynes Hospital and the support agencies are underfunded. which is why we'll come and talk about the will and moo in a moment. But it is really important that the services are out there. They're there to help people, and let's hope that more people use them and get a better quality of life.
Okay, we're back with Brian White. Let's talk about Milton Keynes for a minute, Brian. You came in to see us at the beginning of the year, just before you announced that you was retiring from the council. And something that you said to me, and I've mentioned this to a few people now, you said to us, don't be a radio station that's broadcasting to the population of Milton Keynes now, which is, 260,000. Set yourself up to be broadcasting to 400,000 people, because Milton Keynes is growing at a rapid rate. And even when you was mayor, every time I saw you, you kept going on about Milton Keynes becoming the size of Southampton, about the size of Bristol.
Yeah, it's currently the size of Southampton. It'll grow to be the size of Bristol, yeah.
Yeah. So Milton Keynes has got its 50th birthday. What do you love about Milton Keynes? Because you've dedicated so much of your life to being the MP here at Milton Keynes, getting on the council, being the mayor, which I know was something that you really enjoyed that year.
And also working in the business community.
Yeah.
And there's lots of activity going on in the business community, in the voluntary sector. And there's so much going on in Milton Keynes that we ought to celebrate. And the biggest thing I like about Milton Keynes is its attitude of mind. It is, we can do this. It's not oh dear, we hit a problem, we better give up. It's, we hit an issue, how do we solve it? And who do we need to bring together? And it's that partnership that we have in Milton Keynes that allows us to work together to achieve a common end. A story I always remember is when the legal services were being reorganised. And the government was going around all these towns and cities saying, we want you to be networking, partnership and all this. And they said to the people, go away, work out what a partnership is, and then we'll go on to the next stage. And they'll give you 3 to 6 months to do that. And they came back to Milton Keynes and we'd set the whole thing up.
Incredible.
Because that's our DNA. We just get on and do it. And that's evidence from the Dons to the theatre, to MK Museum and its new museum gallery that's coming, and all the other things that go on. And it's right across the borough, in rural areas as well as the city areas. That indomitable spirit says, I suppose it's a pioneer spirit a bit, that says, we're here, we're going to create something good for ourselves and our children. And there is so much that goes on, so much that you can't report everything. But there is something there that's going on all the time that we ought to celebrate. And hopefully the 50th anniversary will give us the opportunity to celebrate that.
And the stigma about Milton Keynes seems to have changed over the last few years. I've been in Milton Keynes since 2007. And it does seem that with a lot of the reports that have come out recently about Milton Keynes being one of the fastest growing cities in Europe, about the investment that's coming here, the driverless cars, it really does seem as if the reputation of Milton Keynes has really changed. And also as well with the Rugby World Cup, obviously,
Absolutely.
that was hosted here, and all the great events that we've had recently.
We didn't get that by accident. We got that because we went out and worked for it. It wasn't a question of, oh, here you are, Milton Keynes, have it. We weren't on the list. And we had to go out and fight to get on the list. And even when we got on the long list, everybody's going, oh, Milton Keynes, no, you're never going to get it. And it turned out to be the best venue for the Rugby World Cup, because we did what we do naturally. We worked together to create a community, to create the business opportunities, and to create the support networks that are needed to put an event on.
And I didn't realise until recently about how instrumental you were in securing that Stadium MK was built in the first place.
I'll leave Pete to tell those stories. But basically, there were so many obstacles that could have killed it at any one time. And there were people who were trying to kill it, and still are, that it could easily have done. And Phyllis Starkey was the other MP at the time, and myself have got two different sets of skills. And she used her networking skills and her influencing skills. And I used my contacts. So I went to John Prescott and said, oi, mate, you're not going to call this in, are you? And so it was a question of all using our different talents, different abilities for a common good. And that's what Milton Keynes is all about.
And it was just fantastic when you saw the stadium during the Rugby World Cup on TV. You saw it full. Also at the football matches that we've had as well, with Man United have come to Milton Keynes. We had Chelsea as well last year.
The one that I remember isn't a football match.
Right.
It's a rugby match. And you know I come from Belfast, so I'm an Ulsterman. And Ulster were playing rugby, and they got drawn against Northampton Saints. And the Saints at home. And the Saints moved their match to Milton Keynes. So the first time I got to see my team play live in over 30 years since I left Northern Ireland in the 70s was at MK Stadium. And that was a joy, a full MK Stadium. Me being able to sit there watching Ulster, although we lost, it didn't matter. But the fact that the stadium was full and so many people from Northampton and beyond getting so much enjoyment from that stadium, it is at the heart of the community.
Let's talk about your year as mayor then, because I know that you thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. It came about by accident. I'm always accused of being a Machiavellian politician. That I don't just have a reason for doing something, I have about 6 or 7 reasons for doing something. And it was one of the standing jokes against me. And after our defeat in 2010, we knew there'd be an election in 2015. And I wanted to be the candidate for the Labour Party to fight against Mark Lancaster. And I thought, what's the best way of getting free publicity? I thought, I know, I'll be mayor in the year before the general election. Unfortunately, the Labour Party had different plans and put a women-only shortlist in. And I wasn't prepared to shave my beard just to get... I was one step too far.
Yeah.
But seriously, the party chose Emily, and she was a really good candidate. But that was the original thought.
Okay.
And then by the time they'd put the women-only shortlist in, it was too late to withdraw. So I thought, well, I've got this to do now. I'm going to make the best for Milton Keynes, the best for me. And I really enjoyed the 2 years as deputy and as mayor. I think I helped a lot of people and certainly highlighted a lot of community groups. And I was able to highlight big groups like Macmillan and Willan, but also small charities who don't get the publicity, like Ted's Gang and Dawn Allen's charity and all those kind of small charities that are the lifeblood of our community, but don't necessarily get the recognition. And there are still lots of those small charities, rare diseases and things like that, in Milton Keynes that deserve a lot more recognition than they've got.
And the great thing as well about our mayor is that during that year, all the political side of it kind of disappears, doesn't it, to a degree. I know that you had one issue over the opening of the toilets down at the station. But apart from that, politics doesn't come into that role as mayor, does it?
No, it doesn't. And that was a mix-up. And you get issues like that. And if you don't get issues like that, you're not doing your job properly.
So after your time as mayor then, tell us a little bit about from when your year as mayor ended up until you retired. Well,
I've always been involved in the planning of Milton Keynes. I was the original chair of the committee to expand Central Milton Keynes that created the building we're into. So I was chairing the original committee, and the biggest bane of my life was that oak tree, as we had to resolve those problems. But eventually we did, and we got this place built. So I've been involved in the planning of MK forever. I was involved when the theatre was going through, when the gallery was being built. And Living Archive are coming to interview me next week to find where the skeletons are buried. And it's been a privilege to be able to help a lot of organisations in Milton Keynes. And the skill I've got is about bringing people together. Lots of other people have organisational skills. They've got the fundraising skills. They've got all those different skills. My skill was about creating the networks, being the catalyst for change. Not necessarily doing the change, but being the catalyst that brought the right people together in the right space at the right time. And so I've done that for a long time. And when you see some of the things around Milton Keynes that have resulted from that, it's just a joy to see it grow. Yeah, there have been mistakes and there are issues. And there are always controversies. But that's what life's about. I can remember when people wouldn't think this now, but the H5 across Willen Lake didn't exist. And there was a petition, there was a proposal from the Development Corporation to complete that road, which was in the master plan, but it was to complete it. And there was a petition of 10,000 people signed not to allow that road to go through. I bet you if I proposed closing that road now, there'd be a petition of 100,000 saying don't.
Definitely, especially when you look at the queues on that road to the Junction 14, first thing in the morning and late afternoon.
But again, people complain about that. You go to Luton, you go to Northampton, the traffic jams in those towns are far worse than anything Milton Keynes get. We get 15 minutes of problems, 20 minutes of problems, half an hour, depending on what day. Friday's the worst. But you get that, and we compare that with having nothing. If you compared that with what Northampton go through on a daily basis, then we don't know that we've got it really good.
So when you decided to retire at the beginning of this year, was it because you wasn't feeling well? You had plans to go to Spain?
Well, I'm 59 now, but I was 58 at the time. My wife had retired a couple of years. I knew I had an election in May, and my original intention was to fight that election, carry on as councillor for Stanterbury, which I loved doing, and then make a decision in 4 years' time. But the more we thought about it, the more it became, well, if your income's going down because you're retiring, and then now is the right time to make that decision. So on financial grounds and on health grounds, because I recognised I was deteriorating. I didn't know why, but I knew I wasn't right. And then there's the fact that if I made choices then, I'd had a number of choices. If I waited 4 years, those choices got restricted. So it just became the right thing to do. So I stood down, and I'm glad I did because of where I am now. But it was a difficult decision because I loved what I was doing, and I think I made a difference to people's lives, particularly my own constituents, but the whole of Milton Keynes as well. So you don't want to give that up because you still think you can contribute. But every politician reaches a sell-by date. The trick is to recognise it. And I think I recognised that it was my sell-by date. And therefore, it was the right thing to do, was to step down. And as far as Spain is concerned, what happened was we were looking to downsize in Milton Keynes. Now, we got a 4 or 5 bedroom house, depending how you count my office, that is costing a lot of money in the mortgage. So to downsize that to a 3-bed house with a smaller mortgage seemed a reasonable thing to do. Unfortunately, because my company didn't have 3 years full accounts, I didn't tick all the boxes on the mortgage company's list. And we were thinking, what we're going to do? And then we saw this villa in Spain, which was a 6-bed villa for £125,000. So a mortgage-free £125,000 villa with swimming pool in the sun. It became a no-brainer.
Sure.
So we planned that, and we went out to Spain, and I felt fine in February and March when we went out there looking. We found this place, and we went through and did all the. We did it properly. Went through a solicitor and they did all the checks and found a few problems which they sorted out. So on the day I was due to get the results from my from the CAT scan and from the which would tell what the treatment would be, and got told that it was terminal, that it was inoperable, and then I already was the day I was due to exchange on the villa in Spain. So I had a choice that morning because the appointment was about 10:30. Should I just pay the deposit before I go to the hospital or wait till I come back? And I decided to wait till I came back. And so one door slammed shut on that day because with the news, it just wouldn't be right to go to Spain and all the issues. So that dream went out the window. And then it became a new lifestyle, and let's see where we move forward from here. So it was, well, no point in crying over spilt milk. And in 6 months' time, when I'm back fit and when I'm got through this, building up my strength and been through the treatment, we can revisit that and go out and look and find another property and move forward. But it was one of those happening on the same day. It's just typical of me.
It's just incredible when you think of the timing of it.
Yeah.
And I suppose in hindsight, it's just as well that you didn't transfer the money and sign on the dotted line the day before or that morning.
Well, I could have done.
Yeah.
And it came in, the email that said it's all ready came in on the...
So there must have been something inside you telling you just to wait until you got back.
Sheer laziness.
Yeah. So we've talked about the NHS and about the care that you've had from Milton Keynes Hospital and your GP. I know something, and this is one of the main reasons why you wanted to do this interview, is that you're under the care of Macmillan and also our hospice here, Willan Hospice.
Well, when I got the news, they appointed Macmillan nurse straight away. In fact, 3, Pam, Vicky and Carol, and they've been brilliant. And like I was trying to find out something this morning, phoned them up. Within 5 minutes, they'd come back with the answer.
Right.
They don't know what, and it's what I'm doing. It's an appointment for next week, so get that set up. But it's a question of how do you manage your life? You manage it not by being pig-headed and saying I can do all this myself, but by recognising that there are people there to support you. And Macmillan in the hospital are there. Willan appointed a pain manager for me. So if I felt pain or anything like that, she was there. And although it was quite amusing when I heard them say, oh, we'll have to get somebody from Willan to look after you. My last dealing with Willan was when I was on the planning committee. We voted through the construction works in beside the sewage works.
The cement factory.
Cement factory, yeah.
And that was just earlier in the year.
So, yeah, it was 3 or 4 months ago. So I was wondering whether Willan were coming round to help me or for revenge.
Yeah. But, and I think one of the main purposes of us doing this is that still a lot of people don't realise that Willan Hospice and Macmillan are funded by public donations.
Absolutely. They get some money from the government, but it's nowhere adequate.
I don't know the figures for Macmillan, but certainly for Willan Hospice, it's £5 million a year to keep the hospice going, and they need to raise about three and a half million of that to keep it going.
Yeah, and it's not just 1 year; it's every year, and it's growing. And Willan, I first went to Willan for a fundraiser back in the 80s. And it was much smaller than it is now. And the variety of care that they provide was far less. But they've built it up over the years. And it's grown as Milton Keynes has grown. And it's a symbol of Milton Keynes, about our ability to come together, to support people. And the more people who know about Willan, and the more people who recognise not just the good work they do, but the vital work that they do in supporting people. And it is it can be as little as just the comfort of knowing somebody's there for you, to actually active management.
And that's the thing, it is that outpatient care as well as the care that they provide on the premises. And again, that's something that I know that Willen have been talking quite a bit about recently, about that, you know, it's not just somewhere where possibly you go as things deteriorate, it's the care and the support.
Everybody thinks of a hospice as the sort of last few days of your life. It's far more than that.
Yeah.
It is, as I say, the biggest single thing is knowing that you pick up a phone and you phone somebody and they're there for you. And the comfort that gives is tremendous. It just takes a weight off your mind. You know that somebody's there looking after you. And I can't speak highly enough of what they do. And I've seen them do it for lots of other people. And they do it for anybody. It isn't that you're well known or anything like that. It's that they do it for everybody. And the support they give, particularly in people's homes. It isn't that you have to go into the hospice. They will come to your house, as they did with me, and they'll talk about the issues and they'll talk about what the options are, and they'll give you the support you need.
So, Brian, you decided to go public with your cancer.
Yeah.
And I remember the evening. I just was looking through my Facebook, and then I came across your post, and I just kind of sat there for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, just reading it again, and just thinking, what?
Yeah.
And it was just evident, you know, straight away, just when you look through the comments from other people, that everyone was surprised, you know, devastated, is probably,
That was the common word that was used.
Yeah. And whenever, you know someone, like we know you, we got to know you really well through your year as mayor.
Through all my politics, yeah. Even when I was campaigning before the general election last couple of years ago, and I was saying the NHS is the most important issue, and you were going, yeah, what are you talking about?
It's, what is evident is that, not just with you, but whenever anyone gets this type of news, there's a natural reaction that people want to support that person.
Absolutely.
And people I know would have been offering you lifts to the hospital. They would have been saying, what can we do for you?
Absolutely.
And something that we kind of came across just through us talking on Facebook and the other day when I come around to see you, is that we thought, why not let's do something positive for one of the organisations that are helping you.
Well, I shall do it for a lot of different organisations, but the most imminent one is Willen. And you said they were doing the Willen Move.
Midnight Move.
Midnight Move. And a lot of people know that sort of goes on. And they know that there's lots of groups of fundraisers who use it to fundraise, and but they don't really know what it is. They don't know what a move is. They don't know how much money it raises. They're sort of aware of it, but they don't understand it.
They don't drill down to that detail, maybe.
And one of the things I'm hoping that comes out of this, and the proposal that you've put to me, which I've thoroughly endorsed, which is that all the former mayoresses of Milton Keynes put a team in. We set up a Facebook giving page, and we raised money for Willen. But more importantly, we raise awareness for Willen. I think it was a brilliant idea, and it's something that I want to make sure that more and more people hear about. Not because they've got somebody involved, but because they want to help an organisation. And as you say, Willen needs an awful lot of support each and every year. And it's a massive fundraising activity, and their volunteers do so much work. That the idea of giving something back to them and saying, look, here's an event, and they put lots of events on every week, but here's a big event, the Moo, which they can get involved in. They can either participate or they can donate. And I just think it's brilliant that the former mayoresses and other people like Bernie Winkelman, like Anne-Marie Robinson, who've all agreed to join in.
That's fantastic. So really what we're looking to do is to, as you say, raise awareness of the Midnight Moo.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can inspire a lot of people to donate to the joint Just Giving page, which we'll give the details of a little bit later on. But if there's ladies out there that, you know, as you say, have heard about the Midnight Moo but don't know enough about it,
or just scared to go on their own.
Yeah, hopefully they will sign up and do the Midnight Moo themselves. Maybe raise a bit of money. But the important thing is, you're not doing it on your own. 1,300 ladies did this last year, if not more.
Yeah,
and it's a great community event.
And that's the point, is that a lot of people don't know that these are going on, but when they go, they make friends, and they find that the things that they're interested in are the same things that the other people, many of whom are a bit nervous about coming to this, but it brings people together. It gives them opportunities to make friends, gives them the opportunity to do something positive, and I think it's just a really good idea.
So Walking for Brian, that's what we're going to call our little group.
Walking for Dinosaurs, was that?
Well, maybe that's where I got that inspiration from. Maybe but no, the support that we've had from the former mayoresses has just been incredible. So your wife is looking to walk it?
She's agreed to do it. I think I'm not saying looking forward to it.
Katrina Morris, the former mayor, is going to do that. Derek Eastman's wife Heather is hoping to do it. She's suffering her own health problems at the moment. But if not, Nicola should be doing that, who was the mayoress. Vicky McLean as well, Keith's wife. Yeah. So
Leanne.
Also Leanne, as you just mentioned, Bernie Winkleman and Anne-Marie Robinson. They're going to do it on behalf of the Dons. And then also Mrs. D, my wife, is going to do it on behalf of MKFM.
How did you manage that?
Well, I would do it myself, but I'm not a lady. And also Jessica from 1MK.
And again, I say this about both papers. The Citizen in originally publishing my story, but the 1MK, or whatever their brand is this week, they change their brand more often than a politician changes his tune.
It is 1MK.
But 1MK are getting behind this, and I think it's brilliant that we have two really good local newspapers edited by women who are right behind this city, and they report the news and they criticise people, rightly so, but the main thrust of both papers and the radio stations around Milton Keynes as well is about how do we support this city. And I think that is a really tremendous thing.
And I think that's something that's changed over a period of time, because you mentioned Dawn Allen a little earlier on. And I remember Dawn contacting me when Henry was still alive and saying, well, look, you know, we've contacted the local media. I won't name any names. And we haven't got a response. And that was a lady there whose son, you know, would possibly need medical treatment abroad.
Yep.
Needed to raise £500,000. Their worst fear was that they were going to lose their son.
Yeah.
And that they felt that they didn't get the support of the local media. And that was the thing that really drove me to want to continue supporting the radio station, because I knew that we could make a difference. And I think,
and you have.
And I think in a short period of time, we've made some great ground on that. But I think also as well, that it might be that it is because women are now editing the newspapers. It might be because they've started to see what MKFM is doing. But over a short space of time, over the last couple of years,
the whole ecology of media reporting in Milton Keynes has got better.
Yeah, it does seem now that all the media in Milton Keynes is pulling together to support the community.
But I say that is typical Milton Keynes, is that they have their own issues to fight. They've got their own profits to make. They've got their own agendas to do. But where it's important, they come together and they fight the same community battles.
Going back to the Midnight Moo then, we've got all the details on our website, mkfm.com. So if you've been inspired to walk today and raise money for Woodland Hospice, all the details, mkfm.com, you can see on there how you can register. As regards as the Walk for Brian, there's a couple more names that we're hoping to add to the list. Again, All the details of the Just Giving page are going to be on there. So if you are a bloke and you can't walk, then donate. If for some reason you're busy on that night, then jump on the Just Giving and donate. But it would be great to get as many people in Milton Keynes to do this.
Although we've talked about the good and the great, it is about ordinary people as well.
Yeah.
And they can join in, and they can join the team, and they can actually participate, get their friends to do it, have a really good night out, and enjoy that walk. And they don't have to do it to Olympic standard. And the fact that I'm having to take steroids means I can't go out to Rio this year. I mean, it's tragic that.
But a lot of people that do this, they don't do any training for it. And this is going to sound sexist, but we know how ladies like to natter.
Yeah.
And basically natter along on that 10-mile walk, and before they know it, they've completed it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Absolutely. You don't need to go at Jessica Ennis or Paula Radcliffe's speed. You can do it at your own speed.
Yeah. So anyway, there's more details about this mkfm.com, also on 1MK as well. You can find out more about the Midnight Moo. You can find out how to support the Walk for Brian, and also donate as well, which is the really important thing. And just why we are talking about Willand Hospice is that we went to their partners evening the other day, and something that they're really trying to get is that, you know, you can donate £2 a month or £5 a month to, you know, Battersea Dogs Home or to Save the Children, you know, all great causes. But you can do this for Willand Hospice now as well, where you can make a regular donation to support your local hospice.
Absolutely. And if you can't make the Midnight Moo, there will be other events.
Yeah.
And it's important that if you can't make one, make another. You don't need to do everything. Doing a little bit, if we all did a little bit, which is, again, something that Milton Keynes is good at, if we all do our little bit, the sum of everything we do is far greater than trying to do everything yourself.
Absolutely. And, you know, without going on about Willand Hospice too much, I think, you know, you might not know someone now that's been under the care of Willand Hospice. When I first came to Milton Keynes, I obviously didn't. I didn't really know anyone 2 years ago that was under the care of Willand Hospice, but I do now. And it does seem as if some point during your life in Milton Keynes, you're going to know someone that is under the care of Willand Hospice, or you're going to possibly need the care yourself at some point. Or
there's another thing you can do. You can wander down to Willand Lake. You can stand in front of Willand Hospice and get one of the best views of Milton Keynes.
Yeah, that is true. That is very, very true. Not this week just gone because it was raining, but the year before, someone from Willand Hospice wanted to give me a whole tour of the grounds.
Yeah.
And they actually made a point of us looking at that view. And again, how fantastic if you do need to spend a night there or spend any time there, that you've got that view of
Absolutely.
The lake. It is just an incredible sight.
But as I say, Willand isn't just about what happens at the hospice. It's about what happens in the community. It's about what happens with their support nurses. They do an awful lot in Milton Keynes for the people of Milton Keynes, and this is just a little way of us giving something back to them.
And as regards as Macmillan, we will obviously look at some event for them in the future. It's just happened that your news has kind of come around at the time.
But it's not just Macmillan, it's McIntyre, it's there's a whole range of community groups out in Milton Keynes, all of whom are very worthy. And if you can't do it for one, do it for another.
Yeah.
It's not you've got to do it for this and that's the only game in town. But this is an important game in town.
Okay. Brian, you've obviously given so much to Milton Keynes as your time as MP on the council, your time as mayor. You're continuing to support so many great causes. But for people listening today, what could they do for you, or what could they do for Milton Keynes? You know, what was the one thing that you would like people to take with them from the time that we're spending together today?
Get involved. Just join. It doesn't matter which organisation it is. Obviously, I've got my favourites, but there are so many different organisations around Milton Keynes making a difference that will align themselves with what your interests are. Join in. You don't have to give the world. Give a little bit, because everything's appreciated. And it's that, just giving a little bit and building on it that will make this city continue to grow and make it the quality of life here something that we aspire to.
We've got the litter picking event, which takes place, which is done by Milton Keynes City Centre Management and McDonald's. And often they say that people want to get involved, but they don't know how to.
Exactly.
And I think that's the biggest barrier.
Absolutely. And you asked me what I'd done in Milton Keynes. I was one of the original trustees of the Parks Trust. And again, it was how do you build an organisation that is designed for the people of Milton Keynes? And we were way ahead of our time when we set it up. And it's now norm in a lot of organisations. But that kind of approach that says we are here not just for ourselves, but to build a community, I think is at the heart of Milton Keynes. And that's why, as I say, it doesn't matter which organisation it is, but the one that appeals to you, go and join it and do something. And if it is, obviously I want people to raise money for Willen because of the importance of it has in the community, as with a number of other health organisations. But as I say, it is about making sure that you can just do not more than you can cope with, but just doing a little bit, and that little bit will make a difference.
And it doesn't matter what organisation it is. They will welcome someone that can spare half an hour.
Exactly.
They will welcome someone that can spare a day or more.
And don't be afraid to say no when they are asking you to do things.
That's what I tell our volunteers. But anyway, just while you're here, is there anything else that you'd like to say or cover? We've talked about a lot of things today.
Well, as a politician, I can't resist not talking about the European referendum. And my very first vote was in 1975. I was too young to vote in the local elections the week before. And I was 3 or 4 days over 18 when the referendum came. So I voted yes in Belfast to remove the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic. Because we were both members of the European community, there was no reason for the border. And without that border, if that border had still existed, the Good Friday Agreement wouldn't have been done. And the Good Friday Agreement is still fragile, but it is that reason to get us to talk. And it's the other reason is that, and it's a big fear of mine, in the 70 years up to the Second World War, Germany invaded France 3 times, and we lost millions of young men and women in the conflict that followed. In the 70 years that have followed the end of the Second World War, there's still been the tensions between Germany, France and Britain. But in Churchill's words, we were able to resolve them by jaw, not war. We built the institutions where we can have those battles. Those battles will go on forever. But it's having a mechanism to resolve it. And my big fear, and always has been, if you look at the way throughout history across the world, when federations break up, it leads to civil war. So if we leave in a few weeks' time, my fear is that when the people will be sending their grandkids and their kids off to war. And that would be a tragedy beyond tragedy. We've built the organisations that can resolve it. Yes, there are lots of problems. To me, the EU is about things like workers' rights, it's about environmental protection, it's about taking on the globalisation forces, all of which we could do, but they haven't been involved in the debate that we've seen on our TV screen. What we should be talking about is what the EU can evolve into. And there is a vision that says it's about communities, it's about cities, and it is about making sure that what we do is the same as something like Espoo in Finland, where we have an energy agreement with, how we can work together to improve energy issues. So there's lots of visions where there's a positive vision for Europe. It hasn't been articulated in this referendum debate. That's a tragedy. And my biggest fear is that because we haven't engaged in that positive debate, we'll have an even bigger tragedy in a decade's time.
Okay, and as regards as the way forward for you, Brian, you mentioned earlier that between you and the doctors, you're deciding the best course of treatment.
Yep.
You don't know if it's going to be radiotherapy or chemotherapy. You spoke about today that you're determined to battle this and continue for as long as you can. I know that you said earlier that the doctors have said, it could be anywhere from this to this, and I know that so many people listening today are going to be wishing you all the best, sending you all their love, and keeping their fingers crossed for you. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time to wanting to do this interview.
But it isn't about me.
No,
It's about supporting organisations like Cancer Research. It's about supporting organisations like Willen. So whether you're doing it in the research or whether you're doing it in the care, that it improves. It's about the quality of life each day.
Yeah.
You can live with cancer, and you can live for years with cancer because you manage it properly. And if there's one message that we can get out is go early. The earlier you go, the better treatment better options you've got. And when you're there, get the right quality of life. And it's about support for the quality of life. And I'm determined that more people will survive cancer because they got a right attitude. You've got to accept that things happen. So you deal with them. And it's about making sure then that you manage your life for the better. And that's what I'm going to do.
Right, Brian, thanks a lot. As I say, wish you all the best.